Your soul is far larger than you can even begin to imagine. In this video, I am going to be sharing with you the most recent revelations that I've received from higher dimensional beings who were showing me my past life here on Earth. And when they did that, they were showing me that I was actually a projection, a multi-dimensional projection, and it confused me. And I said, stop. You need to make this more understandable for my human brain. So they did share more information, and I have had to sit with it, and I've had to do some research to try and understand what I was told about my own past life. So just to be clear, light beings didn't come to me and give me a lecture on the layers, the dimensional layers of the soul. They were trying to show me important information about my past life in Atlantis, as it so happens, and what that means for me karmically and what that means for me going forward. But in order for me, when I did research on it, I came to understand this concept here, that your soul has multiple layers. I chose the number 7 because you can see 7 things there, but that's just an arbitrary number. It's far more than 7. So I'm going to get into this video, and I'm going to talk to you about the staircase of consciousness for every soul, so you understand how many aspects of yourself you are connected to. It means that you can access these other parts of yourself if you have the ability to get out of your current identity, which only comes from expanding and awakening. Then you can access these other aspects of yourself. Then I'm going to talk to you about the 4 worlds, planet Earth, that ETs have shown me having to do with this. So I put this together, and so far we are in the 4th world, and that is also something that has been said by other, we'll get into that, the other spiritual traditions that have said that. I never teach anything that I haven't personally validated through experience. So now I've validated it through my own spiritual experience that we are in the 4th world. We're about to enter the 5th world. What does that have to do with the different layers of your soul? And then we'll talk about the Egyptian history of Earth. This is what I came to find out after doing research, trying to figure out what I was being told about myself. I'll make a video about that another time. Right now, I want you to be able to learn about yourself. And then I'm going to tell you about the 10 God Kings, what that means, the demigods. And then I'm going to tell you about the 7 sages and all the different traditions that this is found. And I'm going to tell you about the 5 worlds of the Hopi, which I think is probably the best way to describe what I call the 4 worlds. The 5th world, if we're talking about the one that we're about to head into. Lastly, I want to tell you something. I want to give you some hope. I know that there's some really crazy, frightening things going on, very saddening things going on in the world. I'm not going to make videos about the Iran war and I'm not going to tell you what you already know. I know a lot of people are very disappointed and disillusioned because they're waiting for the new world to come. I'm here to tell you that this is part of it. This has to happen in order for there to be a mass awakening of consciousness. Today, I have been given some inside information on what the next plan is that the dark forces have in mind, and it's horrifically frightening, and they're not going to get away with it. And what is going to happen as a result? I have to figure out a way how to make this video something that is YouTube safe, so that number one, you're able to see it and I'm able to keep posting on here. So give me a day or two to figure that out, and I'll come back here and give you that good news. Let's go ahead and get started here. By the way, if you're new to the channel, subscribe, hit the thumbs up button. If you're able to, hype the video if you have the ability to do that. And of course, check out all of the links here. Just keep this channel going and learn how you can expand yourself. All right, let's get into it. So, your soul has at least 7 layers. This is what I've learned directly from communicating with higher dimensional light beings. All right, so let's talk about the staircase of consciousness for every soul. So the first one starts with the source of consciousness, what many people call God. Each soul has its origin in the ultimate infinite source consciousness, or God. Every soul is a holographic projection of God. So let me be clear about that. Right here, right now, you're sitting here in your third dimensional body and you see yourself as this tiny little thing, and then God is out there. But in reality, what has happened is that the source of consciousness, the supreme source, that supreme source of consciousness is holographically projecting itself into multiple dimensions. And I don't want you to see, dimensions aren't the same as alternate universes. It's a staircase. So from what am I trying to do? Like an upside down triangle. It starts big and it goes down, 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 down. And so your soul is a holographic projection of that. You are not a piece of God. You are not a ray of God. You are not a fragment of God, a fractal of God. You are a holographic projection. You are the totality of God in this physical body. So when you go backwards up through, follow your projection up through the dimensions, you will eventually get to the source of consciousness. And you are that source. So that is true about everybody. Doesn't make sense down here, but it's the truth. So that's where it starts. It starts with the source of consciousness sends out a holographic projection of itself. This descending higher dimensional energy, then I'm calling this next level, I'm calling higher dimensional rulers. Each soul has multiple higher dimensional selves that descend down into each dimension. And so at the higher levels, my experience is that these are like the rulers. You know, you've got the source God, and then you have these extremely powerful essences that are like the rulers over everything. I don't have you want to call them titans, you can. You know, they're higher than the gods. They're incredibly powerful, and you are one of them right now. You are one of them up there. So get rid of the idea that you're this little sinful, evil thing. You are playing out a projection. You're playing out a program, a character. So if you don't like the character that you're playing, you can change it. One of the ways to do that is you connect up the ladder of consciousness and you ask your higher selves to give you power to change the rules for yourself down here. All right? So just beneath what I'm calling God, I'm calling the higher dimensional rulers. Beneath the rulers, we have the omnipotent gods. Each soul has its earthly origin in one of the omnipotent gods of polytheist religions. So I want you to think about all of the polytheist religions on the planet. The Sumerian, the Akkadian, the Greek, the Roman, the Hittite, the Vedic, the Norse, the Chinese, I don't care. Almost every society can trace itself back to a polytheist religion where there are the gods, the god of heaven, the god of earth, the god of lightning and thunder, the goddess of fertility, all of the different gods. So I'm putting that at the third level. There's many more in between, but I'm putting that at the third level. You have God, you have, what do I got here? You have God, you have the higher dimensional rulers, and then you have the omnipotent gods. So I'm here to tell you that you have a direct connection, and you are one of these gods. I don't know how many gods there are around our third dimensional universe, but you are one of them. And there might be a bunch of other people who are also that same God. It funnels back together, and that's you and another version of you. You're looking at another version of yourself. I know it's trippy, but I'm telling you, I'm not reading from somebody's script or from a scripture, or this is what I've found out, that I know which God I am, and I know that I am one of those gods, and you are one also. And then beneath the gods, the planets. Each soul has a holographic projection to one of the 9 inner planets of Earth's solar system. So if you're a human being, you are also right now one of the planets. The planets are projections. And so when people look at astrology, they think, oh, the planets are dictating how I am. It's the other way around. You are dictating where the planets are. So it's true that on one level, where each planet is has an effect on you when you were born. Where the planets are affects who you are. But it's not that the planets formed you into who you are. You already are connected to all these planets, and you are associated. Your soul is associated with one planet more than the others. And so you are actually dictating where the planets are being projected at any given time. But you have a connection. If you follow your soul back, your soul will want to go and become one of those planets. Because there's 10, what I'm finding is that, we'll get to this, there are 10 major gods, and you are one of those 10. At least I know I am. And I think it's true. I think I can extrapolate to other people that it's the same for other people. Okay, so you're one of the planets. And then beneath the planets are the demigods. So each soul has a demigod self that can be realized on Earth. A demigod, the way I'm defining it, is a human being. So a physical 3D human being that has access to their God self, to their planetary self, at the very least. And if you can go further up and get to the ruler self, and have that be accessible to you, you are a demigod. And there was at least one period in Earth history where some humans were able to access multiple levels at the same time. And I'm now here to tell you it was a crazy experiment that the entire multiverse, when this was going on, which it was going on during the last golden age, everybody was sitting there watching what was happening, because it was this crazy experiment. What the heck is going to happen if we give one of these third dimensional humans direct access to multiple levels of themselves? Bear in mind, that doesn't happen on other planets. Even planets that are in higher dimensions, the Arcturians, the Pleiadians, pick your higher dimensional planet where ETs live, and they live in higher dimensions and they have more power than we do. They don't get to do that. This was a crazy hardcore experiment to have a third dimensional human get access to multiple levels of their soul at the same time. It was crazy. So you may have been one of those. And then we have humans. You know that you're human. Each human has a 3D human avatar within the 3D video game. I talk about it all the time. The third dimension that we're in now is focused solely on the 3D video game avatar. And just like a video game avatar, the person playing the game is this multi-dimensional person that has a car and a job and all these other things, but there's just this little digital avatar that only can do what is written into its programming. You're an elf, you're a dwarf, you're a shaman. You can only be what the video game allows for each character. You are one of those characters. That's your third dimensional self. We all know that. That's who you are. You don't realize you're all these other beings because you're wrapped up in the video game. And then we have, beneath that, each person has a lowest projection of themselves, which I'm going to call a demon. So each human has a lower 2D frequency self-projection. Now I want to be clear. Demons are not what you've been told in religion. Demons are not fallen angels, Beelzebub, Lord of those beings are not demons. They don't exist. Demons do exist. They are two-dimensional, very evil, very destructive beings, and they are created from human beings projecting intense emotions into the third dimensional matrix. That's sometimes sort of like like when you blow bubbles and then they form their own bubble and they blow away. That is a demon. And it wants to stay in the unconscious realm of the earth, what we're going to call the second dimension. But human beings, when they become disconnected, when they have deep, intense emotions, psychological, emotional wounding, they open up cracks within themselves, and demons can come into the third dimension through other humans. So those are one kind of demon. The kind of demon that I'm talking about here, each human has a lower 2D frequency soul projection. That's my definition of what people call NPCs. Now, as you know, I'm constantly battling with people's misunderstanding of things. So there's no such thing as an NPC, meaning that there's just beings that don't have a soul. Every single physical human being on the planet has a soul. But if you are not connected to your soul, you are a demon. And there are people that through abuse and through trauma and through negative decisions, they completely become disconnected from their soul. Their soul is basically trapped inside of the heart center and can't do anything. It just has to watch while your 3D avatar turns into this horrific demon and goes out and does horrible things. The dark force evil humans that are doing the unbelievably psychopathic, horrific things, those are human beings that have no connection to their souls, and they don't have any compassion, and so they're technically demons. And many of them do engage in dark religion and dark magic, and they do summon the actual emotional demons that are flying around and use them and experience them and get possessed by them. All that stuff is real. So there you go. There's the staircase of consciousness. It is not limited to this, but my human brain could only handle so much. So you've got God, you've got the higher dimensional rulers, you've got the omnipotent gods, you've got the planets, you've got the demigods, you've got humans, and you've got demons. I don't believe it goes further down than demons, because the truth is the second dimension is there's no life there. So you really can't go beyond that. Anyway, let's keep going. All right, so the four worlds that extraterrestrials have shown me. All right, so again, just to let you know, ETs don't come to me with a whiteboard and a pen, and they're not going to teach me. This is something that my brain has to do to make sense of it. They don't live like that. So this is why I already know 99% of all channelers are nonsense. Because higher dimensional beings don't show up to a seminar with a pre-packaged lesson plan. They don't do that. They communicate concepts and ideas that are multifaceted and multidimensional, and we have to pull it apart and figure it out and put it in ways that our human brains can figure it out. That's what this is here. This is what I'm doing. So the four worlds that ETs have shown me. So the Guardian Council, we start with that. So what I'm doing is I'm telling you, I'm fast forwarding to, I've talked about this already, about the creation of Earth. Okay? So starting, this is before Earth has been created. So before the first world has been created, we have this going on here. So the Guardian Council. These are infinite beings of light, and they decide to create a physical world where souls can become what I call super gods. And this world is going to be Earth. One of the council members who came up with this idea volunteers to enter a karmic reincarnation cycle on Earth and supervise the project from within. His daughter, Gaia, volunteers to incarnate as planet Earth herself, and she does that so she can watch over her father. The Guardians then create the inner Earth beings to protect and comfort Gaia. All right. So if you've been on my channel a while, you've already heard me talk about the history of Earth. So anyway, these beings call themselves the Galactic Guardians. That's what they called themselves when I saw them. And when I saw them, they were shafts of different colored light that went up into infinity and down into infinity. And that's their physical, if you were to look at them, that's what you saw. You saw these shafts of different colored lights that just went up into infinity. And so these beings got together, and what's going on is that all the other planets and the planetary systems, the Pleiadians, the Arcturians, the Lyrans, they all have created these incredibly amazing worlds where souls incarnate to learn and experience all kinds of things. And it's wonderful. It's been going on for trillions of years. It's beautiful, but it's getting boring. They're just kind of bored, and it's like, yeah, we master everything. Everything's beautiful. We need challenge. We want to become stronger. We want to create new worlds and new realities. So this council of galactic guardians, they got together and they started figuring out, okay, we got to create a new world. And they're figuring it out. And they come up with this idea for Earth, and they come up with an idea for an extremely challenging school, and only the most powerful of the gods get to go there. And they get to go and experience this really challenging place where you have to take the risk. You might lose your memory of your soul, and you might turn into this demon thing. You might turn into that. And in any case, to school for the soul, and it has to be so harsh that when people are in it, they hate it, they think it's horrible, but their soul is getting hugely strong because they're learning the deepest secrets of consciousness. And before a soul comes to Earth, it says to itself, okay, so what happens to consciousness if fill in the blank? You're born in Southern California in 1963, and you a surfer, and you try to become a movie star, and you do blood, and you end up bald and wearing lots of things, and that's me. So that's my soul. My soul said, what happens to consciousness if fill in all of my life and all of the things that could happen in my life? That's what your 3D avatar is. So that's what Earth is. Got it? So so that's the beginning of Earth. And so also I need to make this clear. So they come up with the idea for Earth, right? Earth herself is a goddess, and she says, I'm going to house all these souls. And what a powerful being that is. And I'm going to let them walk around on me and do their thing. I'm going to let the animals do their thing on me. And I'm going to watch for my dad, who's going to be down here playing the game with everybody else, and make sure that he doesn't, get too far off track. And And then the guardian said, okay, so now we have to create a race of interdimensional beings that will live in her body, in the body of Gaia, and take care of her, protect her, and more than anything else, be her companions, her friends, who will give her love and comfort and guidance and protect, her very sacred parts and her powers and all that. And so those were the Lemurians, the inner earth beings. So you got it. Gaia goes down. The Lemurians go, and they're in her aura, in her energy, and then the animals and the plants, and then the souls. They come down to play the game. Got it? All right. So the first world, I'm calling this the spirit world. So the gods of our universe, the gods of polytheist traditions, they descend to earth in spirit form and create a spiritual world. So souls incarnate as spirit beings and enjoy the earth from a purely spiritual perspective. So this could be the time, when there's dinosaurs and other things like that. Beings are still incarnating, but it's basically they're having a lot of fun. Maybe they're creating life forms, who knows what they are. But they're the gods. And this is where the old traditions of the gods coming down, the council of the gods coming down, creating the earth, let there be light. That was you. That was your God self. You were still coming down to earth and incarnating, but you were more of an ethereal incarnation, and you were a god. And that was the first world. Okay. The second world, these are the first humans. The gods decide to incarnate as physical humans while still retaining their divine status in higher dimensions. They create a beautiful, simple existence close to nature, but they become greedy and start fighting with each other. So this is the problem with Earth. The problem with the design of Earth is that it's so dense that eventually incarnated beings, there's a temptation for them to go into greed and fear and all of that. And so that happened in this first world, and so it had to get the program had to be stopped and recreated. But what's happening is that there's a level of consciousness. So people who call themselves old souls and feel sorry for themselves, well, you have to go through the game to learn the most. So people who've come here lately and haven't gone through all the different levels, it's very hard for them. Souls that have been around a long time, it's going to be difficult and painful for them also, but they've got all these other game, version 1, version 2, which are a stepladder. So there's a very specific goal that earth incarnated souls are trying to experience. I hope you understand that. So that's where we're at here. So that's the second world, and that had to be destroyed because, again, humans started getting greedy and getting out of balance. So the third world, this is the first golden age. This was the golden age of Atlantis. So we could say that the world before that had a golden age and went and then descended and chaos happened, and then that world had to end. So then a new one was created, and out of that spun one which eventually turned into the golden age that we had, where we had this worldwide amazing civilization, amazing technology. This is where Atlantis was. All right, so that's the third world, the first golden age of Atlantis. So the gods incarnate as various levels of humans. Some gods incarnate as demigods. Humans create amazing cities and discover and invent powerful technologies. Extraterrestrials, gods, Lemurians, the inner earth beings, higher dimensional beings, All of these beings all work together on Earth to create powerful spiritual technologies like the pyramids, spacecrafts, advanced spiritual practices. And so this was the first golden age. So this is what people are tapping into, like J.R. Tolkien, when he writes The Lord of the Rings, he's tapping into that. That was a real thing where you had wizards and you had immortals and you had gods and you had mountain trolls and you had beings of light and you had elves and you had the horrible evil trolls and you had all these different beings. That was a real thing. There were various levels of humans, because bear in mind, not all humans have been through as many lives and as many different levels as others. So some people are in 5th grade and some people are in, they're getting their PhD. That's okay. It's that kind of a school. So there are humans who are there who are now demigods. So this is where things got crazy. This was the crazy part of the experiment. These demigods. These were humans who were tapping into their god status. They were tapping into their ruler status. They could make, who knows, maybe they went all the way up to the god source, back down. This was completely unheard of. It has never been done to this degree on any planet. And so it creates an intense power. Now, to be clear, the beings who probably became the most powerful demigods were probably from Andromeda, because human beings, the design of humans is an Andromedan design. So there are other things on Earth designed by other civilizations, plants, animals, insects, spirit beings, all those that can come. Humans is an Andromedan thing. Andromedans are intense. So they wanted to do that. Just to be clear, there are souls that came from other worlds that said, I'm not going to do that demigod thing. There's no way I'm going to try that. I'll watch, I'll help, but I'm not doing that. That's too much, man. That's like, it's just too much. It's too intense. So those were the demigods. And they were an absolute, like, over-the-edge experiment. And it was a risky experiment. As it turned out, as we find out, it turned out to be very risky. That's not where I am. No, where am I? Yeah, so we're at the third world. Yeah, okay, so some gods incarnate as demigods. Humans create amazing cities and discover and invent powerful technologies. So that we already know. And this was new for the human world. Now, this wasn't new for other civilizations, which is why a bunch of other civilizations came and they advised. They were part of it. Some souls incarnated on other planets knowing that they were going to be sent to Earth as guides and as students and as observers, and they were going to take part and share their knowledge and their technology with the humans and the demigods, and it was just this amazing collaborative experiment. I hope you get that. It was just an amazingly wonderful party time, and everybody knew the benefits and the risks. And so ETs, gods, Lemurians all worked together to create powerful spiritual technologies like pyramids, spacecraft, advanced spiritual practices. So the thing is that Earth is such an intense prism. It intensifies energy. Spiritual practices are intensified. So this is why humans like to do magic. And so a lot of beings came to learn that, to do that, to teach that. And again, there wasn't a rule book, so, and knowing even in the human golden age, things can go wrong and people can become corrupt. It's not as easy back then because the frequency was so high. and the Earth was much closer to what the Vedics call, the galactic center. I don't know what they call it, but it's, the center of consciousness. And so we were able to create and do a lot and still stay spiritual and connected. That didn't last forever, unfortunately. Okay, so eventually they became corrupted by their own power. They fight amongst themselves and they fight amongst the ETs, and their world is destroyed by flood. So what happened was that the king, who was the king of Atlantis, who was the de facto king of the civilization on Earth, he was one of these gods. He was also on the council and had a lot to do with the original design for Earth. So that's why he was chosen to be that particular human being there. And he was a demigod, and he had crazy power. And he was able to connect up to, I don't know how high up the staircase, the ladder of dimensional consciousness, but he could go very high up in that. But he was also very human. He was extremely powerful. And so, as you've heard me say many times, what ended up happening is that all of the other beings started coming to him as Earth was moving away from the galactic center. People's consciousness started to shift, and so the danger was obvious. You give an infant a machine gun, he's going to hurt himself and other people, right? So they start coming to the king and they start saying, you've got to power things down. Things are going to shift. Now let people, teach them spiritual practices. And he was very stubborn. And anyway, I've talked about all that, but that was all part of the plan, as it turns out. And so he says, no, I'm not giving up the power. And so they all one by one leave, and or he banishes them because they're telling him to do things that he doesn't want to do, and he feels like he's betraying human beings if he lets them fall into a lower state of consciousness, and then blah blah blah. So he says, no, F you, get out of here. And they all end up leaving, and then he is assassinated. He's his own inner circle assassinates him and takes over the world. And as the world starts going down further and further, they start launching an attack against extraterrestrials and all kinds of horrible things. And this is where black magic and evil religion becomes, because it's about a rebellion against the higher dimensional beings that are saying, hey, you need to focus on your own spirituality, not on others. And so that's where that evil religion first starts coming into being. So, as you already know the story, the gods say we gotta end this world. So they send the flood, which wipes out that civilization. It doesn't die immediately. This is the thing that I'm finding out. It doesn't die immediately. It's like it's hamstrung at the knees, and it starts to fall apart, but it sort of lingers on in little bits and pieces until it completely falls apart around the time that we see, the Sumerians, the first civilizations. That happens. That's when the old civilization has finally died. I'll get into that. Very interesting stuff. All right, and then the fourth world, that's where we are now, this current world of men. The gods who incarnated as demigods are now reincarnated as normal humans. So I'm here to tell you that the heroes of mythology, the king of Atlantis is here walking around on this planet as a normal human. All of the other, that turns out there was 9 other demigods. They are walking around on this planet as well. There are the sages, there are the priests, there are all kinds of powerful human spiritual beings that were on this planet, and those that didn't shift up to a higher frequency. Those beings are incarnated on this planet as normal humans and more than likely do not remember who they were. So this is now the age of men. The age of men is the demigods have forgotten who they are. And they're walking around not, just being normal humans, not having any idea who they were and who they are and what their capabilities are. Okay, so they forget their divine selves and their past lives. Humanity descends into a dark age. The world is now coming to an end as we enter a fifth world, a new golden age. So as I hinted at the beginning of this video, I was given today, I was told what I believe. I'm happy to be wrong. I'm not attached to any of this. But I believe I was told what is going to happen next. And that's why I'm saying I know these wars that are going on now are horrible, but they have to happen. And they are going to kickstart something huge. And there's going to be a spiritual component to this. And bottom line is that the dark forces, who are reincarnations of the demigods who used to rule this world, those people will not be able to do their ultimate end game plan, which they are now working towards. They are frantically working towards putting things together so that they can do their final attack on Earth, but they won't be able to do it. So I'll make a video about that at some point. But we're on the verge of going to the fifth world. And the fifth world is going to be another golden world, and it's going to be even better than the earlier one because we learned from that experiment. We took it as far as we could. This is the thing about Earth. This is the thing about Earth and about Andromedans. Andromedans take things to the extreme. They don't do anything halfway. Earth is an Andromedan design. And so it takes everything to the extreme and takes it right over to the edge and beyond the edge, and then it wipes it clean and then takes all the information from that and rebuilds and creates the next one. So this next golden age is going to be even better than the other one. And who knows, maybe we'll make new mistakes, but we won't make the same mistakes as before. And all the other worlds have gone through their evolutionary thing as well. Earth is the new world in on the block. The Arcturians have been around for trillions of years. The Pleiadians are so evolved they're not even physical beings anymore. Same thing with a lot of other ETs. They're not physical anymore. So human reality is now moving its way up. But all of the combined consciousness and awareness and wisdom from all the other planets are being funneled into Earth. But yeah, we have to make a bunch of messy mistakes. But it's going to end up making something unbelievable. Anyway, so that's what's coming next. So we're heading into World 5. Okay. Now I want to get into the Egyptian history of Earth. All right. So what I've done now, what you just heard me talk about, is this is what I've put together as a result of being shown me in past lives and all that, and I was shown myself connected to multiple streams of my my dimensional consciousness, and I said I can't process this. I don't know. And they said you can do it, and they kept showing me this and that. So after that, I then had to figure out and put it together. So I had to go do some research to put it together. And I'll make another video if you want, and I'll get specific about myself if you want, and how I came to this conclusion. But one of the things I did is I started researching the Egyptian understanding of Zep-Tepi and the flood, and all of that. And I was amazed that the specifics that I was being told in the vision turned out it's in that. So I'm gonna use what works. All right, so let's talk about the Egyptian history of Earth. So according to Egyptian priest historian Manetho, ancient Egyptian writings and temple hieroglyphs say that the world was first ruled by 10 gods who created Earth, established society, and ruled for 13,900 years. I am not going to take his years literally, because the Earth is a lot older than that. But I'm presenting to you what he said. So I know because I was shown. I was shown simultaneously myself as a demigod in Atlantis and also a god. And that was what threw me off. I was like, well, which one am I? You were both at the same time. How could I do that? I was shown that there were 10 gods. There were 10 gods that were involved in this. So that number is important. So the 10 gods, according to Manetho, are Ptah, the creator and the first king. And they are presenting him as literally the first king that walked the earth. I'm telling you he was the first king, but he was a god, he was a spiritual being, and he was the leader of the other 10 gods that were walking around or flying around or doing whatever, non-physical gods did. Then there was Ra, the sun god, who established the cosmic order. It's interesting because the rune Raito means order, and it means the path of the sun. Then there was Shu, the spirit of air and wind, Geb, the earth, Osiris, the king who brought civilization. Osiris was also betrayed and assassinated by his brother Set, the agent of chaos, and Horus, the avenger and restorer of order, Thoth, the scribe of the gods and master of wisdom, Anubis, the guardian of the scales, and Amun, the hidden king who finalized the divine era. We're going to get into that in a second. I've also come to understand that all of those 10 gods represent planets. And especially this goes with Vedic astrology especially. And so you understand who these beings are. It's just, I wish I could put into words all the stuff that's coming to me but I'm doing my best. So hopefully it's getting through. All right, so there's the Egyptian history of Earth. Here are the 10 god kings before Atlantis. So there are the Sumerian kings list, who say there are 10 kings who ruled before the flood. Plato's Atlantis says there are 10 demigod kings who ruled Atlantis before the flood. The biblical understanding is that there are patriarchs, and they say there are 10 patriarchs who lived for thousands of years, so they're basically demigods who lived before the flood. And then in Babylon, Berosus Babyloniaca, a Babylonian priest, lists 10 kings before the flood. And then I just gave you the Manetho's chronology of the Egyptian priest who lists the 10 demigod kings before the rule of men. So that to me is the reason why that's such a big deal, is because what I was shown was that there was, in Atlantis, there was a central king, and he was surrounded by 9 other kings. And the first thing that they showed me was that he was a god, and he was surrounded by these other gods that saw him as like the central god, and they said that this king was being worshipped by the other gods. And I'm like, I don't understand. Are you talking about people? Are you talking about gods? And they said yes. So I had to figure out what was going on, and that's when I realized it was happening on multiple levels simultaneously. So the number 10, I said, okay, this is important, and this is what I do. So just to let you know, when I get communication from higher dimensional beings, I don't just take it at face value. I doubt it. I presume that I have misinterpreted or I'm fantasizing. No matter how much energy is getting pumped through me, I assume that I'm not understanding it, and so I go and I research to see if it turns out to be true. And I was absolutely flabbergasted that what I saw was true, that there was in fact 10 beings with one central being, and there were 9 others surrounding him. And these were, number one, the gods, they're the planets, the gods, and these demigod kings that were ruling Earth during the Golden Age, during Atlantis. So there's that. All right, but there's more. There's other beings there. And I wasn't specifically shown this, but as I did my research, I enjoyed seeing this because I'd looked into this before. There are seven sages. These are, depending on which tradition, they are gods, they are humans, they are wise beings, they're immortals, they're fish, they're shapeshifters, but there are 7 of them, and they are responsible for bringing back society to humans after the flood. And this is found in multiple traditions as well. So the 7 sages who rebuild civilization after the flood. At least 4 different cultures state that 7 divine sages teach the demigod rulers and help rebuild civilization after the flood and then disappear at the time of men. So, different traditions have different timelines, but based on what I can see, the 7 sages are overlapping. That they're there with the gods, they're there with the demigod rulers, and when the demigod rulers all, get destroyed, the 7 sages, they continue on into the shift between the rule of the demigods and the rule of men. And these 7 sages, because the whole civilization was wiped out, all of the technology, everything, and the human beings that were left were basically, just had to pull themselves out of the mud and pick up rocks and sticks and try and figure out how to function. So all the technology and all the civilization was gone. They had to start over again. That's why our current historians believe that somehow, magically, human beings had been around for, now they say, 2 million years, and for 2 million years they couldn't figure out how to do anything except make spears and wooden spears and arrows, and that's the best they could do. They didn't know how to make a wheel. And then all of a sudden, magically out of nowhere, 3,000, 4,000 years ago, the Sumerians pop up out of the sand and they've got civilization. They just figured it out of nowhere. And no, what was happening was that human beings, they fell drastically. The whole world got completely, basically erased and had to start over. And so the sages are there, and they go and they help civilization rebuild itself. Bearing in mind, they don't know what they're going to get. They're just like, we can't let these humans just sit around, not knowing how to function, and we got to help them out, So they start civilization over again. All right. So the first of the 4, the cultures that I found, is the Sumerian, Babylonian, Abgalu. The Egyptian sages of Edfu, same thing, after the flood. There are 7 sages that go and rebuild society. The Vedics have the Saptarishi, which translates into the 7 seers. And many people have suggested that the Saptarishi were extraterrestrials. And then you have the the Greek heptad, which translates as the seven sages. Again, the seven sages who rebuilt society after the flood. So we have four. These are not connected. Sumerian, Egyptian, Vedic, and Greek, these are all completely different societies. And then there are other traditions that teach divine sages appearing. They don't use the number 7, but I kept them. And those are is Viracocha from the Andean, the South American tradition. The Aztec, which is the Mesoamerican, and Quetzalcoatl is the being who comes in and teaches how to start rebuild society. The Dogon in Africa have the Nomo. The Chinese have the three sovereigns, and the Phoenician have the Kabiri. So there are basically all over the world, there's this tradition where these divine, semi-divine, God-human sages show up out of nowhere, and they teach people how to build cities, agriculture, water, food, religion, mathematics. So I find that really interesting. Anyway, let's keep going. All right, I think this is the last. All right, so I wanted to tell you about the five worlds of the Hopi because I believe that they present them in the most accurate way. Again, I wasn't told this like, ETs didn't sit down and tell me, like I'm doing now. They just showed me this thing and where I was in at it. And so I had to go and do some research again to try and put it together. And the Hopis are the most accurate to what I saw and what I experienced. So the Hopi five worlds. The first world is endless space. And here the gods created the first world. It was a place of pure happiness where humans, bear in mind when they say humans, they don't mean physical humans. They mean souls incarnating on earth. Humans, people, they're just not physical. It's a place where humans lived in harmony with animals and spoke a single language. However, people began to forget their creator and turn to earthly desires. So that world was, of course, wiped out. The second world, they called it Dark Midnight. And the survivors of the first world emerged into a second world that was beautiful. Again, greed and conflict took over. This world was destroyed by ice. The third world, this was a golden age, but it was also, they called it kind of too much, like it was self-indulgent. Remember I said that it was crazy, that the golden age, the previous golden age was a crazy hardcore experiment by everybody. So the Hopis call it like it's too ripe, it's too much, it was overindulgent. So in this world, humanity built this is according to the Hopis, the humanity built great cities and developed advanced technology, including flying shields. And they used their power for war and ignored the laws of nature. This world was destroyed by a great flood. So again, the Hopis are talking about flying saucers. And so that doesn't jive with our history. They shouldn't have known anything about flying saucers, according to history, but they knew. They knew before we did. Before Europeans knew, they knew that, there was a golden age and people had flying saucers. Okay, so then they talk about the fourth world, which I'm translating as the testing ground, which is exactly what this is. So this is our current world. So the faithful survivors, bear in mind there are some that weren't so faithful. So the Hopi are saying that they're descended directly from a group of surviving humans that said, hey man, we're not gonna get involved in that crazy negative garbage anymore. So the faithful survivors climbed out of the floodwaters. They were met by the guardian of the earth, who gave them a choice. You could live a simple, humble life of farming, or you could follow the path of the two-hearted, which is the path of greed and technology, which leads to destruction. So two-hearted means inauthentic. It means you say one thing and you do another. It's really talking about people who are what psychology would call unconscious. So if you've worked with me a lot, you know I talk about unconscious resistance. This is when somebody acts destructively and irrationally towards their own evolution, but in their minds they have this twisted logic that tells them why it's okay to, mainline Coke every day. That's unconscious resistance. This is two-hearted. And, say one thing, do another, lack of compassion, two-hearted means that your heart is separate from other people's heart. If you're one-hearted, it means that you feel what's going on. You have compassion and understanding. You would never do anything to somebody else that would hurt you. And you would never do anything to hurt yourself because you know that hurts other people. So these, the Hopis were, according to their tradition, they were given a choice. Hey, do you want to live a simple life? Or do you want to go the path of the double-hearted and go after technology? And this is empty technology. Whereas the Golden Age, it was spiritual technology. This is empty technology. And so according to that, they chose to do the simple path. Now, what is interesting about the Hopis is that they are among the very few, I don't know how many others, we could probably count on one hand, how many Native American cultures still exist in the land that they lived in before Europeans showed up. And the Hopis are one of them. They're living in the same land. They were never taken off their land and put on a reservation. And part of it was that they weren't violent. Because you saw what happened. The most violent, the Sioux and the who are the other ones? The Comanche, incredibly violent. I'm not saying that Europeans weren't equally as violent, but the more violent ones are the ones that got, torn apart and thrown onto reservations more than anybody else. But the Hopis had such a strong connection to their spirituality that they were protected to this day. So this is another reason I acknowledge their understanding and their mastery. All right, so that's all the information I wanted to share with you today. I hope that this gives you a feeling of hope, because we're in a bad place right now. Very bad place. And a lot of really bad things are going on. And it's potentially very frightening and dangerous. And again, what I've been told is that it's the chaos that happens, that has to happen before people are forced to wake up. And that there are going to be other things. Now, I didn't put it here, I don't think. Yes, I did. Okay, so the Hopi, the transition to the fifth world, sorry, I didn't get to that. The Hopi believe we are currently at the end times of the fourth world. They have a series of prophecies, the 9 signs, that signal when this world will be destroyed to make way for the fifth world. The final sign is the falling of the blue star Kachina. I'm calling that the white hole, which will remove its mask and signal the great purification. Now, there's some controversy about the blue Kachina prophecy, and there's a bunch of false blue Kachina stuff that's happened. I don't know about that, but I do know that I find that to be very interesting, because what I was shown not too long ago is that there's going to be a white hole that appears above the earth. And as I'm saying this, there are 2, not 1, but there are 2 potentially great comets that are heading our way. That'll get here soon, like within the next month or 2. So we'll see what happens, but I think there's a possibility one of those might be this blue star Kachina. Also might be what I have been called the white hole, which is that when that gets over Earth and shines over Earth, it's going to wake people up. So if such a thing were to happen, this is a good time, because if we're heading into World War III, like a lot of people think we are, I don't know, then this would be a good time for something like that to happen. So we'll see how well this video ages. But again, I'm not making a prediction. I'm feeling hopeful. Things look like they're lining up towards that. And I know what I feel I'm being told and being shown, which I'll have to make a video about soon. So there it is. Your soul has 7 layers to it. So that was what was the main point that the light beings were trying to show me, was that if you can get over your third dimensional, small-minded 3D ego, and if you can accept that you are multiple versions of yourself, including the most powerful God self you can imagine, you'll be able to create this new reality. I have to say, more and more people are responding very negatively to me talking about how powerful the light beings tell me that I am. But what's interesting is that they don't hear when I'm saying, you are that. So that's one of the reasons I'm doing this video this way, because I want you to apply it to yourself. Because what people are doing is they are responding unconsciously to me talking about my expansion, and then they want to turn around and start giving me unsolicited advice and telling me how I need to humble myself. And one guy told me that he checked me out and that my chi level was low. And I mean, it's amazing the projection that people have. That's his own projection about his own insecurity. And so, people have this misunderstanding. They think spirituality means that you don't have any thoughts for yourself and that you're a doormat and I don't have an ego. And that's false. That's actually the third dimensional ego. It's also a lie. It's you're projecting a lie. You want that to be true about yourself. It means you hate your own power, which is the third dimension, which wants you to hate your own power. So the most frightening thing we can do is expand into our power. And I am choosing to say yes to everything that the light beings are showing me and telling me, no matter how painful and frightening it is to my third dimensional ego. All right, so I do recommend that you don't take my word for anything, that you go and you prove to yourself. And the way you do that is that you have to initiate a trans-dimensional connection. You have to reach out and communicate to ETs. You have to reach out and communicate to higher dimensional beings. You have to do it. People say, well, if they want to find me, they know where I am. Yeah, but they're not going to come looking for you. You have to go looking for them. So the way to do that, easiest way, is just do CE5. CE5 protocols. I don't know why this is so difficult and people are so confused. It's not that difficult. CE5 protocols. I've made videos, I'll make more telling you exactly how to do it. You can get the app or not get the app. The app won't do it for you, it's just a tool. It's a very simple meditative, I've made a video about it, almost nobody's watched it. You have to reach out and connect to them. The same is true if you want to connect to the inner earth beings, if you want to connect to the Lemurians, if you want to connect to the gods, you have to reach out and communicate. Don't wait around for them. The easiest way to not shift is to do nothing. You have to do something. So if you want to have the same experience as me, if you want to prove whether I'm right or wrong, and I welcome you, I challenge you lovingly. Prove me wrong. You have to do that by actually doing it and making a connection. Don't tell me what's written in some book or what somebody else said. I'm not going to respond well. I'm going to get very annoyed if you do that. And don't tell me about you had your inner meditation and you came up with some crazy stuff. I've meditated my whole life. You have to get out of yourself. You have to go and reach out beyond our third dimension. That's the only way this works, in my experience. I teach you how to do that. All right. So please come and enjoy our live guided interdimensional meditation, which we do every Wednesday and Saturday. Right now, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. That's going to change in the next 6 weeks. It's going to go back to 8:30 Eastern, because I'm going to be driving across the country in about 6 weeks. And if you want to know my techniques for communicating with higher dimensional beings, go to contact.thunderwizard.com. If you want me to do a channeled reading for you, I just did one. You can see the one, the Atlantean wizard one. I did a channeled reading. I will tell you what the light beings tell me about you and your past life and your future life. Go to channel.thunderwizard.com. Your body needs to be able to handle the amount of energy that's coming from higher dimensions, especially if you're going to reach out and communicate with beings. Go to thunderwizard.com. On the menu, click on memberships, and then go and I recommend, if you're new, go to Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong, but there's all kinds of other memberships, ones that you can work with me. The most powerful way to expand is to work directly with me. So look at memberships for that. Now, you can also do the practices. The practices that I've been taught have been channeled over the centuries, and some of them directly to me from higher dimensional beings. And these practices are designed to open up the portal, which allows you to connect to higher dimensional energies. And it allows your body to handle the most powerful energies. For that, you go to thunderwizard.com, click on shop, and scroll through there, okay? If you have any questions, put them in the comments section. I answer all of the respectful questions. If you want to know where to go or what to do, ask me, and I'll do my best to help you out. Share your experiences if you've been doing the meditations or the live guided meditations. I thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I love you all. Please be very good to yourselves. I will see you all very soon.